All right, man, peace. So as I'm sure all of you brothers know by now, the vaunted trade between the New Orleans Pelicans and the LA Lakers for Anthony Davis did not go through. And I just happened to catch this very entertaining segment on the Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman show. And one of their guests is Richard Jefferson, who I've always called the best homosexual basketball analyst on television, bar none. And he's about to drop some serious dimes on his former teammate LeBron James, particularly about Klutch Sports, the Lakers, and LeBron, and how interconnected they are. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
It's not about the players? It's not about the players. Is that what you're saying, that the players can't have that type of control? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's what the Pelicans are trying to say.
That's what the Pelicans are trying to say. Tell me about the All-Star game. Tell me about the All-Star game the last 2 years. What is it right now? It is not East versus West. It is not tradition versus tradition. It's Team LeBron versus Team KD. It's Team Bron versus Team Giannis. Every year the NBA continues to push. It's about the players. It's the players' control. The players' control. Now players are creating their own media. Now players are joining up together. Now players are doing all of this stuff to say, oh, we have complete control. We have complete control, and it will always be about this. The issue that the Lakers ran into is, one, no one wants to really work with the Lakers. You saw that with the Kawhi trade last year. Everybody was like, Lakers, go get him. Lakers, go get him. There was no way on earth Papa's going to trade Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers.
Of course not, because that's demeaning. I mean, come on. And I think that I heard another analyst put it this way, and I thought that it was very apt. It's like your wife coming to tell you that not only is she leaving you, but she wants you to drive her to her new man's house. I mean, come on. These are teams in the Western Conference. And basically, they're being told that they should act as a AAA affiliate of the LA Lakers. Why would they do that? So in back-to-back seasons, the San Antonio Spurs were supposed to trade Kawhi Leonard to the Lakers, and then the New Orleans Pelicans were supposed to trade Anthony Davis to the Lakers? Like, really? Like, come on, man. It's not even so much about Laker hate, even though I believe that that is a component. It's more about, why would you assist somebody in your own conference?
He was going to trade him as far possible away from the Lakers as he could, even if he ended up there, but they weren't going to feed into it. And look, New Orleans didn't want to feed into it either. But the real issue here is the way Magic Johnson, Rob Pelinka, I think their inexperience showed in this matter.
Beyond that, Magic Johnson, he's just not very shrewd. He's not. He's somebody that you would love to play poker with, because Magic will give everything away. All you got to do is look at his face. You can tell if he has a good hand or a bad hand, because, and I stated this a long time ago, he'd go on talk shows and he's telling you about what player he wants to sign to the Lakers. It's like, dude, this is not fantasy basketball. What are you doing?
The fact that they were so naive to think that, hey, look, Rich Paul and Klutch, they figured out that Anthony Davis doesn't want to resign there, so they just want to get ahead of it. That's what they tried to make it seem. It's like, hey, my player's not going to resign, so you guys have this time to get it done. But ultimately, what they were trying to do is orchestrate a trade to the Lakers.
Of course. And look, Rich Paul's a very smart man. I'm sure that he heard through the grapevine that Anthony Davis grew up a big fan of LeBron James, and he said, aha, because of all the great players in the NBA at this time period, how many of them are willing to say that they grew up a fan of LeBron James? Go through all the list of top players in the league right now. Kawhi Leonard, no. Kawhi Leonard was a fan of Kobe and Jordan. Russell Westbrook, he was a fan of Kobe and Jordan. James Harden, big fan of Kobe. Steph Curry, he was a Steve Nash fan. Kyrie Irving, he was a Kobe fan. So you go through all the top players in the NBA. The only truly prominent player who grew up a fan of LeBron James is Anthony Davis. So if you're Rich Paul, that's the person that you go to and try to convince them that he's not happy where he's at. And this is an old technique. This is a technique that dudes have used on weak-minded women to make them think that they're not happy with their man. Right? That's an old poaching technique. And Rich Paul used it on Anthony Davis, and it worked. Anthony Davis left his former agency and he signed with Klutch Sports. From the moment he signed with Klutch Sports, it was in motion to try to get him out of New Orleans. It is not that difficult to figure out. It just didn't work.
And look, I love LeBron. That is my guy. But at the end of the day, that is a Klutch thing. There is no separation between LeBron and Klutch.
There we go.
There is to a degree.
Wow. Richard Jefferson got on television and stated that there is no separation between LeBron James and Klutch. Wow.
Right? LeBron is more of like, hey, it is a part of it, but who was in the building in Charlottesville last night? It was LeBron James. Who was sitting right next to him? Rich Paul was sitting right next to him. Why? Because they were recruiting.
I want to respond.
And LeBron brought along Rajon Rondo to make it look like it was a team thing. Like, we're just out to enjoy this college game.
They they were recruiting Zion Williamson. So to say that there is no connection.
I won't necessarily say that they were recruiting Zion Williamson. I say that they were out there to make their presence known and to just watch him up close and see what he actually can do.
Action.
I want to respond to those 2 points.
That's it.
Let me respond to those 2 points right now. Yes, they give the players all the control, provided they don't decide where they play. The NBA is set up that the only way
The players are allowed to decide where they play. It's called free agency, dude.
way you can leave before your 7 years are up is to leave tremendous money on the table. And even then, you don't choose where you go, you're drafted to whatever city by chance, and then you must stay there or you lose tremendous money for 7 years. And even then, if you leave, you lose $80 million as a max contract player. So they don't want the players to actually decide where they play. That's one. Two.
Well, I won't say that they don't want the players to actually decide where they play. What they're trying to do is incentivize players who they draft and develop to stay with their franchise, especially since the overall thought process by the franchise is, we did you this favor by drafting you. So you could look at that as NBA teams trying to instill an obsequious thought process in the players, or you could look at it as a best business practice. Because once again, if you're in a small market, how are you going to keep a player if you cannot incentivize them? You just can't do it. After 7 years, you will lose a player to a big market team if you can't pay them more money.
Two. If Anthony Davis wants to be $1 billion brand one day, can he do that?
Or I should say a big market team that's run well.
Better from the Los Angeles Lakers or the Pelicans? He believes, obviously, it's the Lakers. He should be allowed to make that choice for himself. And by the way, the exit fee shouldn't be close to $100 million, but it is. So,
Max Kellerman, I have news for you. In order for you to win big, you got to bet big. Sometimes you got to lose certain money on the back end so that you can make more money on the front end.
So forgive the players for trying to exercise what leverage they have to leave. If people think that's unfair, then you know what? Why do the Lakers cost 3 times what the Pelicans cost to buy? The owners don't seem to complain about paying much, much less for the Pelicans than the Lakers. You know why? Because more people think it's more desirable to be in LA than New Orleans. Sorry.
Well, that's a small part of it, but it's also because due to the Lakers' winning legacy and where they're located in Los Angeles, the cost of living is higher, therefore the ticket prices are higher. Once again, the price of these franchises is relative. It's like somebody who makes $30 an hour in New York. That's equivalent to somebody making $16 an hour in New Orleans. And I'm just saying that. I'm not saying that as fact. I'm just trying to create a scenario. A dollar is not a dollar everywhere. So Max Kellerman is trying to compare apples and oranges.
Sorry, that's the way it is. That includes the players. Now, I notice when
this is an argument that would ultimately undercut your entire point.
Go ahead.
There's a reason the Supermax exists. There's a reason why they try to protect players in their home drafted markets.
Break it down, Will Kane. Tell him.
It's because the league cannot survive on 3 teams.
Thank you, sir. Ding. I mean, why is this so difficult? Oh, I know why. Because Max Kellerman is a socialist and he just cannot understand why everyone does not want to promote anarchy, as much anarchy as possible.
Because you cannot have a league where it's the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Lakers and hope that people are going to tune in, year out. You have to have a league with multiple markets interested. That means me sitting at home in Dallas or whoever sitting at home in New Orleans has a team to root for.
Thank you, sir.
The idea that everybody's going to end up on the Warriors, or everybody's going to end up on the Lakers, you love your short-term versus long-term arguments, might be nice and short.
That too.
I know, I'm sure that you do. But that will kill your league in the long term. And I know you believe that the whole thing boils down to the whole world is envious of New York and LA. But what they're really envious of is being bullied.
Right.
We don't want you.
Hold on.
No. Listen to this point out, because I think you need to understand this. They don't want you being whoever, the Lakers, Klutch Sports, Rich Paul, telling them how to run their business.
Agreed.
That's going to make people go, you know what? I'm not dealing with you.
That's a straw man argument and a false narrative. I agree you must have a league that's competitive. That's why rules are in place to keep the player there, basically, like it or not, for close to 7 years.
But you're hating on that rule now.
No. If a smaller market or a less desirable market can't make it work, with 7 years practically of the services of a max contract player, that's on them. There should be nothing in the rules that says they are entitled to a career's worth of service by that player. That's one. Two, do I believe that the small...
Wait a minute. We have to get back to number one because, as Will Kane already stated, you've been hating on that rule for basically the entirety of this debate, and this debate goes back months. So now all of a sudden, Max Kellerman, now that Will Kane has finally decided to hit him with a really cogent point, suddenly Max Kellerman has no problem with a player being relatively mandated to stay with the same team for 7 years. Allegedly, he has no problem with that now. Why is that? Because Will Kane properly explained to him why the league needs to create these incentives for the teams that draft these players. So Max Kellerman is full of shit.
The small markets or the less desirable markets, and I'm not saying from my point of view, I'm saying this is what the marketplace is saying, should have no chance to compete? Of course not. Do I think they should have the exact same chance to compete as the larger markets? No, I don't. I think smaller markets should have to be smarter, like the Spurs, for example.
Right, well, the Spurs, they were smart, but they were also very fortunate. At the end of the day, yes, they were able to draft Manu Ginobili, they were able to draft Tony Parker, but without Tim Duncan, you don't have a dynasty. All right, so they were able to draft Tim Duncan, and fortunately for them, they had a superstar who was willing to stay in San Antonio, but even he almost left. If Tim Duncan leaves San Antonio in 2000 or 2001, whenever it was, to go to Orlando, their entire history is different. When you're an Oklahoma City Thunder franchise and you've lost Kevin Durant, you lose James Harden because you're in a small market. Of course, you want provisions made to incentivize stars staying there. That's one of the reasons why they were able to bring back Paul George. If they were not able to pay Paul George prohibitively more money than an LA Lakers or LA Clippers, he probably doesn't come back. So you do need that so that, these players want to stay in Denver and want to stay in Oklahoma City and want to stay in New Orleans. And the league can be competitive all around. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, if the player decides because he's going to make so much money anyway that he's going to bite the bullet and go somewhere else and go team up with his homeboy in Boston or New York or in LA, that's his business. But that's life. If you're working at a job making $40 an hour, but you want to start your own business, you have to consider that you are going to have to lose some money on the front end and then hopefully get it back on the back end, right? Or vice versa, lose it on the back end and get it back on the front end. Either way, no guts, no glory. That's why you have that slogan.
In order to compete on even terms with markets like New York and LA, or else we're just rooting for laundry.
Well, Max Kellerman, I have news for you. Fans do just root for laundry. That's what you're supposed to root for. How could you just root for players? If you root for players, players are going to leave. You become attached to players, quote unquote. That's very unhealthy. It's unhealthy to be a fan, period, of anything. But if you're going to have a rooting interest, it would be better for you to root for the quote unquote laundry, i.e. the jersey, better than an individual who can leave. And in an era of free agency is most likely to leave.
You can't just talk about New York because, look, at the end of the day, New York has been awful for so many years. So you can't just...
Richard Jefferson, that's why I call him the best homosexual basketball analyst on the planet. Allegedly, all right? Everything I'm saying in regards to him is alleged, okay? Allegedly the best homosexual basketball analyst. But he gets it done. It's the second player to correct Max Kellerman on that bullshit, fallacious, big market argument that he tries to use. Jalen Rose also corrected him.
You can't just say, everyone wants to go to New York. Everyone goes to... Nobody has been going to LA, even when Kobe Bryant was in his final few years.
Lakers haven't been in the playoffs much. What have the Clippers done?
Exactly. So we can't just make this about a market. Just because LeBron James finally went there and went there low-key by himself, right? Was like, hey, I'm going to take on this task after going to...
Bullshit. He went there to fulfill his ritual and to be closer to his Kabbalistic overlords out there. LA is the land of the witches.
In the 8 straight finals. It's not about the large markets. This is a guy that wants to change the environment. You had one of the best players in his prime, and he's only 25 years old, only 26 years, and he's like, it's time for me to get a change. I'm not going to re-sign with you. Here is a little bit of a head start, because you know what could happen? If all of a sudden, the only thing you could do is a sign and trade, but if he decided that at the end of this contract, I was gone, then he's really leaving him high and dry. So for him to give a heads up, it's like, look, I'm giving you a heads up. At the end of the day, they didn't bring back Rondo. They didn't bring back Boogie Cousins, right? And I understand Boogie.
Right, but whose fault is that? I still have a hard time believing that Anthony Davis went to the front office and said, what's going on with Boogie and Rondo? And they say, get the fuck out of our office, with your one eyebrow having ass. I doubt if they said that to him. Okay, I believe that Anthony Davis didn't say anything and then show up to training camp and act shocked. Either that or he wanted them both gone.
Boogie Cousins injury thing, but they had the best team that they had since he had been there. And last season, they go to the second round of the playoffs, and all of a sudden, he's back there.
You're absolutely right in every respect, and I don't begrudge Anthony wanting to leave. I never have. It's being dictated where he leads to is the issue. It's being bullied about where.
This is why it's spiteful. This is why it's spiteful. Because what Anthony Davis is saying is, let's look at everyone's interests. I don't want to leave you high and dry. You should get something for me. I would also like to not lose $80 million, or it's not the super max, but it's still the max extension, so it's $50 million. When I re-sign with the team, when I sign with the team I want to be, I don't want to lose $50 million. Can you please trade me to where I want to go? I'm giving you the heads up.
Well, I have news for you, Max Kellerman. Anthony Davis's beef is not with the New Orleans Pelicans, it's with the NBA's Players Association. Because they're the ones who collectively bargained that agreement. So all that whining and all that bullshit gets you nowhere. If I'm the New Orleans Pelicans, and I stated this in other videos, I tell Anthony Davis, you know what? Get your ass back down to the locker room, man. We're paying you all this money for you to make the team better. You're up here crying like a bitch talking about your legacy. You're supposed to be a superstar in the NBA. It's your job to lead our team to a championship. We brought you DeMarcus Cousins. We brought you Rajon Rondo. We brought you Mirotic. No, we brought you Drew Holiday. We brought you all these players. You're supposed to be a transcendent player. Hakeem Olajuwon won 2 championships and barely even had another all-star on the team. Okay, so I don't want to hear all this shit about no damn legacy. And now you trying to run to that damn Chia Pet scalp having dude over there in LA, LeBron James. I'd be like, get the hell out of my damn office. I'd be just like, what was homeboy name in Beverly Hills Cop? Remember Axel Foley's boss, Inspector Todd? Remember how Inspector Todd would talk to Axel Foley? That's how Dell Demps should have talked to Anthony Davis. Be like, get the fuck out of my office, Foley. But anyway, it is what it is. At the end of the day, Max Kellerman, he can get on TV and talk all the shit that he wants to. He has a contract with ESPN. He cannot go to ESPN and the bosses and say, you know what, I just don't feel like being here. Let me out of my contract. It does not work that way. So peace.